this game, Captain Marvel was gatekept from the base game and instead got her own DLC level, much like Black Panther. Now, as I've said, I'm not a fan of this tactic of TT games because their straight up abusive DLC content is not an isolated incident for this game, or for all of their games for that matter. Ever since the concept of DLC was becoming commonplace, TT games jumped in on the opportunity and just sprinted with it. Well, Captain Marvel's DLC here is just about the same in quality from the rest of the DLCs in this game. The level ones at least. Here we have the star of the DLC level and the next addition to the MCU list. If you've kept up with the MCU, you'd know that she is a little overpowered, and that stays true in this game. It's weird because this isn't even the first time we've seen Carol Danvers. We've seen the Carol Danvers Ms. Marvel, and she's nowhere close to the power of Captain Marvel here. Since Captain Marvel came in 2 variants with her DLC, I'll cover 3 of her 7 abilities. Yeah, 7. I'll cover the few that I don't feel are really necessary, and those 3 are agility, regenerative health, and technology. These 3 are good to have for sure, but they're just gravy given Captain Marvel's other 4 superior abilities, in my opinion. Captain Marvel is one of the main players of the MCU now that Iron Man and Captain America are out, much to the dismay of a lot of MCU fans. Now, I'm not going to play dumb and pretend that all the controversy around Brie Larson and Captain Marvel in the MCU doesn't exist. Not a lot of people, but a vocal minority of the MCU fanbase are bashing her and the rest of the MCU. I'm not going to dwell on it too much, but I think the whole situation is dumb. These 40-year-old men on YouTube claiming to not care about the MCU anymore because of Captain Marvel, despite making 2 videos about it a day and watching every single thing they come out with. It's a little stupid, but I mean, enough MCU politics for now. This is the second Captain Marvel variant to come from the Captain Marvel DLC, and the only difference is the mask. And that's the only reason why I ranked this one over the other. I like the mask, what can I say? But with all of that out of the way, let's go over her final 4 abilities, which are Strength, Flight, Laser, and Cracked Wall. Like I said, the abilities I went over in the last segment don't really hold a candle to these other 4. Captain Marvel has Agility, great, but she can fly anyway, so who cares? And those other 2 just seem to be tacked on, technology and regenerative health. But yeah, Captain Marvel is a decent character to play as are all of the characters in this final third of the list. Here is the final character that has yet to be covered from the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. DLC pack. So this is the best character from the pack, I guess. If you haven't seen the show, this is Daisy's father, Cal Johnson, played by that guy from Twin Peaks. But, I mean, like Gorilla Girl, or Red Hulk, or what have you, this guy can transform into another character entirely. It's strange how Daisy's mother was basically at the bottom of the list, while Cal here is nearing the top. Honestly, being in the top 50 in this game is basically star status, especially if you consider how few abilities characters had in the older LEGO games. Like, Boba Fett was in the top 10 in the complete saga, but would probably be in the middle third of the list if he was somehow in this game. And I'm being generous with that, he might even be lower. But I mean, back to the subject of this segment, Cal Johnson has another persona included with him, Mr. Hyde. Mr. Hyde was never referred to as such in the show, but was referenced in the promotional material, so it's strange that this other version of Cal Johnson is given another name entirely. As Cal Johnson, he's a regular semi-evil doctor guy. He has technology, and that's about it. But when he transforms, he turns into a monster man, Mr. Hyde, not unlike Pound Cakes in that he has the abilities of big boys, but is regular sized. As Mr. Hyde, he has strength, toxin immunity, health regeneration, cracked wall, super jump, and wall climbing. Toxin immunity is probably there because in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. level, you straight up see Cal crawl through some toxic goo. And we don't like inconsistency, right? Here's the last core Avenger we haven't seen yet, and that's impressive given how close we are to the end of the list. The Hulk and Bruce Banner are 2 sides of the same coin, literally, and it's this guy who's the reason why Transform is considered its own ability. Now, there are only 2 variants of Hulk and Bruce Banner, but lucky for us, Bruce Banner and Hulk are like 2 wildly different beings, so we can cover one and the other for each Hulk segment. For this one, the Age of Ultron variant, let's cover the less interesting half, Bruce Banner. As Bruce Banner, he has all the abilities of a smart guy at S.H.I.E.L.D., which are technology and S.H.I.E.L.D. He doesn't have repair, which is disappointing, but that's more of a Tony Stark thing anyway. But in my opinion, I would have still given Bruce a repair if I was the guy assigning abilities in the development of this game. I ranked this Hulk and Bruce Banner under the other one because I like the other Bruce Banner outfit more, and I don't like this shade of green on Hulk. I don't care if it's movie accurate. I much like the vibrant green of the Hulk that you're about to see right now. And after the Age of Ultron variant, we have the Avengers variant. It makes sense that the variants for each Avenger would be based off their physical LEGO minifigures in the sets they came in, but this situation is especially strange for Hulk. The takes on Hulk in LEGO form were transformed dramatically between the first two Avengers movies. I mean, the Hulks are two entirely different shades of green. I would have expected them to maybe change the first Avengers Hulk to have the same shade of green as the Age of Ultron Hulk, since that shade is more movie accurate. But they stuck to their guns and made the first Avengers Hulk the lighter shade of green that he was in the Avengers LEGO sets. As Hulk, the abilities are all the same as many of the big boys we've seen time and time again. Cracked wall, super strength, super jump, toxin and fire immunity, and wall climbing. All the same stuff. So to recap, Hulk has those abilities, plus transform, plus shield, and plus technology from Bruce Banner. Of course, it's a solid lineup, and this game did Bruce Banner justice, relatively. Here he is, the big bad, the guy the entire MCU was leading up to. Now, with Thanos gone, they're doing everything they can to keep the MCU afloat. And honestly, after Endgame, I can't see how the MCU can ever reach that level of hype again. It just doesn't seem like a possibility to me. Anyway, Thanos in this game is half big boy, half magic user. Remember how I said some time ago that the problem with big characters like Thanos here is mostly due to the fact that they can't do regular sized abilities as easily? Well, Thanos here is the guy I was referring to. But before we get to that, let me cover the more obvious abilities, judging by his build. Thanos has strength, cracked wall, fire and toxin immunity, super jump, and wall climbing. However, he has 3 more abilities outside of these. These abilities would make sense if Thanos was wearing the Infinity Gauntlet, but he isn't. These abilities are electricity, laser, and telekinesis. Last I checked, Thanos didn't have the power of energy projection or anything in the comics. Not until he had the Gauntlet, at least. But pretending he has the Gauntlet in this game makes it more believable and more enjoyable, if I'm being honest. When I was talking about regular sized abilities, I was mainly talking about Thanos' telekinesis, in that it only works like half the time. Like, look at this footage of Thanos playing chess. I have to reposition myself several times to get it to work. This is the case with every instance of telekinesis with Thanos, not just the chessboard. Some places I can't even seem to get it to work no matter what position I'm in. Still though, having Thanos is pretty cool to see in the roster, especially considering we've only seen him for a total of 3 minutes on screen in the MCU at the time of the release of this game. Next up is the villain of the first Ant-Man movie, YELLOWJACKET, also known as Ant-Man but not, which is something we've seen several times in the MCU. You know, the same general premise of the hero, just with a twisted morality. I've spoken about it before, so I won't dwell on it, but YELLOWJACKET was available in the Ant-Man DLC pack for this game, and also the last character from that DLC that we haven't covered yet. Crazy stuff. Darren Cross was the guy who took over Pym Technologies and was evil, I guess. He's also the dude that killed Antony, so there's that. In this game, he's basically an enhanced Wasp, in that he shares a lot of the same qualities, mainly that YELLOWJACKET can shrink and fly. Probably the best scene from the first Ant-Man movie was the fight scene between Ant-Man and YELLOWJACKET on the toy train table in small form. And that scene showcased YELLOWJACKET's first 2 abilities, flight and size. Aside from those abilities that basically define him as a character, he has the following abilities: agility, scan, technology, stealth, great, and shield. Most of those have to do with his ability to switch sizes like stealth and great. Technology and scan makes sense too, since he usurped Pym's tech company, but shield? What's up with that? He doesn't have any affiliation, so it might have been a mistake, but whatever. Baron Mordo is one of the 2 villains you see in the all-new, all-different Doctor Strange DLC. Baron Mordo was crashing into Doctor Strange Sanctum Sanctorum, and your job was to get rid of him as Doctor Strange. Baron Mordo, being a fierce adversary of the Sorcerer Supreme, obviously will have a fierce set of abilities to go along with his fierceness. You get what I'm saying. Also, Baron Mordo is a new add to the MCU edition list. Baron Mordo was more of an ally to Strange in the first one, but we don't see him as an enemy in the sequel. Well, not entirely. The bit we see of Baron Mordo is a different universe's version of him, who played along as his friend before being somewhat of an enemy. I don't know. Doctor Strange regarded him as an enemy when we first saw him in Multiverse of Madness, but we never saw Mordo try to kill him outright before the events of Multiverse of Madness. Anyway, Baron Mordo has 8 abilities, with most being magic related and 1 that's not. The magical abilities of Mordo are telekinesis, mind control, great, force field, flight, laser, and regenerative health. The outlier is technology. It's a little bit of a weird addition to his ability set, but I mean, it makes him more useful, so okay. From the Spider-Man DLC pack, we have the Miles Morales Spider-Man. I've talked before about how I felt as though the Spider-Man DLC was a waste of an opportunity. Instead of including a bunch of spider people with generally all the same abilities, they should have had 1 or 2 Spider-Men with a bunch of Spider-Man villains to have a diverse set of characters. However, the Miles Morales Spider-Man is the one other Spider-Man aside from Peter Parker that I would have liked to see in my ideal Spider-Man themed DLC character pack. Miles is pretty similar to the regular Spider-Man, but he has his own little quirk. Also, the fact that Into the Spider-Verse is legitimately my favorite Spider-Man movie to date, it just further earns his respect for me. Like I said, and as you probably know, Miles is very similar to most other Spider people, and that's reflected in this game with the abilities we've already seen from the previous characters from this character pack, which is web swinging, wall climbing, technology, scan, grapple, and agility. But what sets Miles apart is also something we've seen in Into the Spider-Verse, which is his stealth ability. Miles can make himself invisible through camouflage. The science behind that, I don't know, it's comic books, but it's a cool little thing that only Miles has among the Spider people. Also, Miles can switch into his pedestrian outfit too, but it doesn't really add anything of importance. And as the final character to come from the Spider-Man DLC character pack, we have the Iron Spider. The Iron Spider is best known from the Civil War comics, where Spider-Man revealed his identity to the public and got this suit designed by Tony Stark, like, as a reward. Since then, we've seen the likes of Amadeus Cho don the suit in the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon, and we've seen a version of what could be considered the Iron Spider suit in the MCU, in Infinity War, Endgame, and the start of Far From Home. Iron Spider is considered the best character of the pack because, like Miles Morales, he has his own separate and even better quirk. As a product of Tony Stark, you can expect the Iron Spider suit to have similar qualities as an Iron Man suit. So aside from web swinging, wall climbing, technology, scan, grapple, and agility that all the other Spider people have, the Iron Spider gets the added abilities of explosive and laser. I don't know about you, but these extra 2 abilities make it so the Iron Spider blows all the other Spider people in the DLC pack out of the water. The only guy that comes close is Miles Morales, obviously, because I literally just covered him. Still though, if you pointed a gun at my head and forced me to play as a Spider-Man character in this game, I will choose the Iron Spider, without a doubt.